Pride's one of them. Another one? That has nothing to do with it. It's graduation. Yeah, it's like, all right, I'm home now. What do? Well, you have to basically give the kids all the rules now. This is the rule week. Okay, let's see what we got over here. Speaking about kids, next week's medal is all around amazing teenagers and how we can help them on top of this. So if you bring your teenager from 10 and up, this is a co-ed. You bring by the way, it's Father's Day weekend. Now, I need your help on this. Meaning, you probably know an amazing teenager. I want to give you the criteria of what an amazing teenager is that I would like to have on stage. These are two of them that I'm talking to right now. So the first teenager, to whom I hope to have here next week, does anybody know who Quinn is? No. Let me show you Quinn. This is Quinn.
So how old do you need to be to play the blues? Well, one of the greatest bluesmen of them all believes he's found a budding master in a teenage boy.
76-year-old Buddy Guy is a blues legend and a guitar master whose searing solos command the stage. But often at his concerts, he'll call up a young musician
Would you like for me to bring my...
who isn't even in high school yet.
Why did you decide to sort of take Quinn under your wing here?
You go ahead and play it?
Quinn Sullivan is just 14, but already he can trade licks with the best of them.
He's been on stage with Metallica, Eric Clapton. So I'm looking for a teenager like that. One more that I'm talking to, hopefully he'll be with us next week. Taylor. Let me show you who he is.
Welcome, nuclear scientist Taylor Wilson.
My name is Taylor Wilson, and I'm a nuclear physicist. And I've been doing nuclear science since I was about 10 years old. So for those of you who don't know my story, I can start at the beginning and talk about some of the technologies I've developed and how it affects all of us. So that's actually in my garage where I built this fusion reactor when I was 14.
He built a fusion reactor when he was 14. I was lucky to get a high score in Donkey Kong in my own home. But incredible teenagers. Anybody know some incredible, Bill? You know, come on. I want you to think of some incredible teenagers, Bill. Incredible teenagers here next week, or people that are doing stuff that's amazing for teenagers. So next week's medal is all around. So it's not kids' medal, it's teenage medal. But these are incredible kids. These are our future. So let's hang out next week. Please bring your loved ones. The fathers are out there. It's Father's Day weekend. It's a great time to bring your kids here next week at Medal. All right. So today is World Ocean Day. You know, the other day I was driving around, I think it was Wednesday, and I wanted a donut. I had no idea it was World Donut Day, and I did not celebrate properly. I am going to go in the ocean today. I'm going to go to the beach today to celebrate the ocean. Because the ocean, I don't know about you guys, that's one reason why we live here, is we live by the ocean. Because, of course, it gives us great things, like great weather. It pushes most of the pollution as far west or east as possible. It gives us just great climate. The oceans are wonderful. But, of course, we've abused the oceans. But it's pretty amazing. If we look at the oceans, even to this day, this came out this week, we're discovering new things inside the ocean on a regular basis. Every week, new phenomena, new discoveries pop up in front of us as if literally it's a laboratory of incredible discoveries. So every week, I have a nice little area inside my Google News alerts on ocean discoveries. They always pop up. It's mind-blowing what happens. So this is pretty cool. It's kind of creepy. Dragonfish, needle. They're actually looking at its teeth as a new way to create cloth, is what they said. They could actually use the thin invisibility factor of what these teeth are. Maybe we could put inside cloth. That's one journalist said the other day I was reading about. But of course then, as we look at what's going on when it comes to plastic, and we talked about this last week also, how plastic has just invaded our oceans all over the place. It's got to be pretty bad. If we look at these areas, these primary areas of where there's almost a current that rotates, it creates these islands of plastic in those areas. And these are the primary areas. And you probably have seen, like, one of my favorite places is Bali. Great, incredible water. The water that we see on all the tourism brochures, blue, it's clear, but in some respects, this is Bali right here. It's in one of those areas where the plastic's being pushed around. And Indonesia is actually one of the most polluted areas when it comes to water. It's got the most polluted river in the world, is right inside Jakarta. But this right here is flowing in from Indonesia and India, and in the Philippines, it's going down to the Indonesia area. It's horrible. So we're seeing plastic in certain areas where it's invading the beach. It's taking over the areas, and it's sad, especially beautiful, popular tourist locations like this. So what's happening? What do? We go to another teenager. Boyd, who knows Boyd? Anyone? Boyd, a couple of hands are up. Boyd is doing something amazing when it comes to the oceans.
But there is someone who is attempting to do just that.
When talking about environmental issues, I think a common response is, well, that's a long way off, that's for our children to worry about. So hello, here I am.
Since Boyan was 16, he's been on an environmental mission. Now, 6 years later, he's crowdfunded millions of dollars to start his own company, the Ocean Cleanup.
Boyan and his team have got their first prototype in the sea going out today, so we're going to go and see the progress in getting it out, and it's going to be tested for all weather sorts, which is a perfect place to do it here on the North Sea. It gets pretty stormy out here.
Are pretty severe. Now, with the first minus storm, we'll get forces higher than during a 100-year storm in the Pacific Ocean. It's pretty safe to say that if it survives here, it will survive anywhere.
But to scale the array to be scooping up the Pacific garbage patch, Boyan has a way to go.
What we're seeing here is just one segment, and eventually the thing will be about 1,000 times larger than this.
Wow.
And somewhere in the center of this giant V-shaped array, we would have these conveyor belts and pumps to extract plastic. I mean, 100 kilometers, it's very large for a man-made structure, but it's peanuts compared to the size of the Pacific Ocean.
Assuming everything does go to plan, what's the next step?
We should be ready to deploy the first full operational system by late 2017. So that will be the first time we're actually removing plastic from the ocean at a large scale. And then if that goes well, we should be ready to start the largest cleanup in history by 2020. So this is just the beginning, it's not the end.
Beginning, not just the end. Now, what I love about this is they've deployed the first one, and literally it's just an area where all the plastic goes into and they catch it. A couple of months ago, we talked about the recycle issue, where we can't really recycle things properly because China has basically denied a lot of the recycling. And I know Jason, where are you, Jason? Jason goes, oh my God, that's a huge opportunity. And you started looking into where you can take a lot of the recyclables that are out there. How did that go?
Good, we're still looking at buying a company that's based out of Minnesota.
That does this?
Yeah, so it's a plastic recycler based out of Minnesota that can sort basically any plastic. And you've got three inputs. We've just been figuring out the ones that live in cold-ass Minnesota.
It's in Minnesota. Well, what I like what Boyd did is he says, all right, there is a problem, but what do we do when we collect all the plastic? This is his solution.
While Boyan works towards hitting the next milestone of his experiment, he's simultaneously planning what to do with the degraded plastic he's able to collect and how to make it valuable again.
This is one of the companies we're working with to actually produce the recycling product, because eventually this is sort of how we want to finance the whole ocean cleanup. This is a machine where we put in the flakes, so the ground up ocean plastic objects. So to get the highest quality of plastic, we really want to sort it first before recycling it. And then it shoots exit here as...
It's like a pasta machine.
It is exactly as a pasta machine.
The process involves chopping up the plastic into tiny beads, known as nurdles. These are then sold and melted down into the objects we use in everyday life.
Yeah, so this is sort of the whole currency of the plastic industry. So car companies buy these minerals to make their products, and furniture companies use them as well. So it's sort of giving ocean plastic a second life.
This is pretty cool to know that this plastic has been around for the last few decades and could have come from anywhere in the world.
Oh yeah, and this could have well been some of the first plastic that was ever produced at scale in the 50s or 60s.
Yeah, so there's a solution around collecting it too. So there's a business. And I guess that's the way we have to always look at what we're doing is what's not just the solution, but where can you actually benefit? Most of us are capitalists here. How can we make money doing this? Go ahead, Steve.
Question. You know, we're dealing with this whole thing about straws right now. It's a big deal. I was curious how straws end up in the ocean. Now, I understand, obviously, there are litter bugs all over the planet. I mean, in America, generally, we'll put trash in a trash bag. Am I totally out to lunch here? Are just people just dumping stuff in the ocean because they can do that?
Just straws are part of the whole process. Straws are just one of many, like diapers. There's just an abundance of straws. But by the way, those paper straws suck. Have you tried those? They're the worst. I have to use like 3 or 4 straws. Who likes them? What are you drinking? Water? Oh, you drink fast. Try a smoothie. Oh man, it becomes part of the smoothie.
I saw it, I noticed this week because of this ocean day coming up, that here in the Pacific, it's not just the plastic that's floating on top of these large islands, it's the fact that it's degraded itself and turned into these almost
Microbleeds, beads, and they're inside our fish. Yeah, I saw a cartoon. It was somebody buying fish, and they go, "Do you want your fish, or do you want plastic for your fish?" They go, "No, it's okay. It's already in it."
Yeah.
Because it's sad, right? We're starting to find fish.
This is layering down, not just layering on top.
So we're also finding that some psychiatric problems with children may have been caused because of the plastic inside food, because their eating is in developmental phases of their life, and it's affecting their actual growth. So plastic has a pretty detrimental effect on all of us, especially our children right now. It's pretty sad to see this. But again, I'm not sure what kind of ocean you like. This is the one I like. I personally don't like our beach because the water's cold and the waves are strong. I like that. But I want to make sure I can go and take my kids to beaches that are like this all over the world, and we have to find other ways and other solutions to get rid of the plastic. I didn't mean to end with a downer right at the very beginning, but it's important. This is also important, us getting together. This is the hike we're doing tomorrow. I know it's 45 minutes to an hour away for people, but it's incredible. Now, if you had the chance to go to Paramount Ranch last year and go on this incredible hike where they filmed so many movies, you were fortunate because Paramount Ranch is gone. The fire is destroyed. This is another area that was really close to being destroyed, and this area here has got incredible, almost alien-like territories. You don't want to miss tomorrow's hike. It's going to be a hot day, finally. It's going to be a beautiful day tomorrow, and you want to come and hang out here. This guy's rock. They've done from the Flintstones to Blazing Saddles to Star Trek to so many. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which they're doing the 3rd one, which they just got done shooting apparently over here last week. This is a great place to go hiking. Please join us tomorrow. And personally, I would love for you, my daughter's coming to town right after medical day, and I said there'll be tons of people to hang out with you tomorrow on the hike. She goes, "Really?" I go, "Yeah, trust me." Guys, please, make me look good. Please, don't do it for you, do it for me, okay? It's San Carita. It's a great hike. It's worth carpooling together. So I talk about connecting all the time, not networking. Everyone says this is a networking group. It's not a networking group, it's a connecting group. And I'm honored because Edwin created our handshake, and our handshake's important. If you're new, you'll learn it right now, but let's greet each other. chance to buy Bitcoin when it was extremely low when we talked about it back in 2013, 14. Bought it low, bought it under, let's say, $1,000. Bought. Everyone had a chance, right? Everyone had a chance, okay? Who had a chance to get into the cannabis industry when it was just getting going? Had a chance. Good job. Who did it? All right. So the next thing. It's still around $1 billion, $1.5 billion. Not big yet. And it's obvious. And it starts with this event. It starts with this. This is a big event here in Los Angeles. E3 is huge. It starts off, you know, we always talk about things like virtual reality. We talk about things like augmented reality. And now we have mixed reality. I remember I shot this at a Microsoft store back in 2000 and I want to say 15, maybe 16. This video right here. Remember when the Kinect came out and all that? See how the virtual headset on? Started to climb. We get a little too real. I think we're okay now, but esports has exploded. Esports is what is hot today, and if you watch the TV show Billions, one of the best shows on television, there's a whole, I think, an episode where Axe tries to buy a professional football team, and he's unsuccessful at doing it. Today, buying a pro esports team might be the cool thing, and you could do it as a group. They're not too expensive yet. And the management of one, it's not too expensive yet either, but this is where the new hot area is. Because esports has gotten big. It's gotten big. So if you look at the difference between viewers and enthusiasts, this is very interesting. Because there's not too many, let's call it sporting events, where the enthusiasts and the viewers are almost parallel. And it keeps on growing. So as we can see, as we continue, we're going to have let's say 300 million people playing the game, where 250 million are enthusiasts. They're the ones that are actually finding a way to be part of what's going on. They're in competitions, local, small competitions online. Very rare to see something like this. So esports, this is an opportunity. So as you start looking at esports, the teams are cool. They got that edge to them. There's even a really cool, a bunch of girl teams that are popping up now that are kicking ass just as much as the guys' teams. But esports is so red hot. Now, who doesn't really understand esports? Just be honest. I love that. Let's dive into it then.
I usually wake up to warm up and just to see how good I'm doing, like mentally and physically, and if I'm prepared to play for 6 to 7 hours a day. I get really lost in Overwatch sometimes. My life is kind of esports in general. My whole life is just waking up and grinding.
Indy Halpin is a rising star in the esports world. He was recruited straight out of high school to play the game Overwatch for a professional team, the LA Valiant. Indy's fans know him as Space. Indy's contract includes a salary and perks like this spacious apartment, bankrolled by what has become a nearly $1 billion industry. Esports has a huge fan base that pack arenas to watch their favorite players go head to head. It's become a business that pioneers of competitive gaming could not have imagined only decades ago.
This is what people are interested in, and around the world for that matter.
Steve Cohen is Chief Strategy Officer for AEG, the largest sports ownership group in the world. AEG's portfolio of over 43 professional sports teams boasts several successful esports teams as well, including Indy's team, the LA Valiant.
How do you measure the size of the esports market? How big is it?
900 million to $1 billion for this year, and expected to go to at least 50% over that by 2020. Here at Staples,
We sold out a tournament in less than 15 minutes. You've got public companies like Activision Blizzard or EA Sports. These are multi-billion dollar companies. You start adding all of the values of those companies together, you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars right there.
Esports is dominated by teenagers and men in their 20s.
That's right. It's dominated by that space, but it's changing. We're starting to see more women get involved. The cottage industries, which I find to be interesting, and that is keeping these, believe it or not, they're known as athletes, in shape, making sure that they are ready to win, because every second counts. So if they're able to stay more aware, more alert, stronger while playing the game, this is going to give them a chance to beat the competition. So there are trainers and camps for these esports players just to stay in physical shape.
These are professional video game players, training like professional athletes.
A fraction of a second in this business can be the difference between millions of dollars. And if we can eat right, or we can sleep right, or we can train right to get that fraction of a second, then we're going to do it. We're going to hoist trophies.
They're an esports team playing Counter-Strike. And they're training in a way that's new for professional gaming. It's part of a much larger shift happening in the industry. As more money pours in, esports is starting to look a lot like traditional sports.
No, I don't think the average person has any idea how sophisticated the operations are at the top of the esports team.
This team is part of a massive gaming franchise called Complexity, which manages 9 teams that compete in more than 200 competitions around the world each year. In 2017, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys invested in Complexity. And last year, 2 of their teams moved to Frisco, Texas, to live and train alongside the NFL team. By April, they will have their own facilities on campus.
Esports 1.0, players live in mom's basement and practice with their teams online. Generally, they'd only see their teammates once or twice a year at the big LAN events. Esports 2.0, gamers can come, live with their coach, live with their teammates. They get better a lot faster, but the problem was it wasn't a wholesome lifestyle.
Lake says we've entered Esports 3.0. Players still spend a lot of time playing and practicing, as much as 12 hours a day sometimes. But they also live healthier, more balanced lives.
They're going to talk about time management, you're going to talk about physical fitness, you're going to be talking about eating right, you're going to be talking about making sure that you're in healthy relationships, talking to the media, growing your brand, a number of different things.
Complexity hopes this kind of training will give their players an edge. Esports is a $1.5 billion industry. The biggest competitions are played in front of sold-out stadiums. They get sponsored by companies like Toyota and T-Mobile and broadcast on ESPN. Players are competing for prize pools as big as $25 million.
I had to stop it right there, $25 million. By the way, the irony is a lot of the esports stuff came from Korea. Same migration path as what K-pop is going. So we see massive audiences in Asia, and now we're starting to see it here in the United States. I was thinking about you, AJ, because I'm starting to see big bands open for esports events because they get the same type of audiences that would normally see them in the first place. Did you? It is. This is the hot new space. So I want you to start paying closer attention. Now, the reason why I bring this up is I'm seeing more people say, hey, you want to be part of the syndicate to own this esports team. So you want to find out what group they're in, who they challenge, what competitions they've won. But this is a hot space, and it won't cost you a ton of money. If you want to get into something like this, it could cost you as little as $50,000 to $100,000. I know it might be a lot for some people. What I'm saying is there's an opportunity here. Yes?
What happens when a particular game goes out of fashion and you own a team that plays Counter-Strike and now...
I don't know the answer. It's a great question. Anyone?
Football doesn't disappear.
Let's ask over here, Mr. Gamer himself, who's on Twitch all the time now, right?
Well, so, I spoke to you guys last year on this topic, and it's interesting. I've been watching it to try to find opportunities in it. And I found a lot of good opportunities, but no great opportunities. To your question, teams have multiple franchises. So if you look at, say the top 3 teams, so Cloud9, Ghost Gaming, and Tensor, they all started with CSGO, which is over 10 years old. the top first-person shooter game, which is the most enjoyable to watch. The top revenue is a battle arena game called League of Legends, and if you don't know what's going on, it's fucking miserable to watch. Because there's 100 different characters with 100 different skill sets each. It's like the complexity of what character you're playing and what it does. If you don't understand that nuance, you don't get the excitement. That said, anyone that wants to do it, here in Santa Monica, Riot Games runs League of Legends, and they do public tournaments during season. If you haven't gone, go. And OGN, the Korean-based esports gaming team, bought a TV production facility somewhere south of here for PUBG League. They have National PUBG League, NPL, that's done there during season, which season is right now. That's incredible to watch. They also have European League, Asian League. But it's incredible. So when I went there the first time, there was no gift shop. The concessions was a truck that had cans of Coke. Like, there's so many opportunities on the periphery of esports that nobody's taking advantage of.
The cottage industries, the ones that are
all around it. There's so many. I'm looking for the $1 billion opportunity, but there's $1 million, $10 million opportunities. And if anyone wants to learn more, hit me up.
Awesome.
Just segueing a little bit on that, on the League of Legends, it's at London Olympic, and every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they have a purpose-built stadium that fits about 2,000 people, and it's smack full.
For Overwatch?
Yeah. The League of Legends World Champions, LA-based team called Team Liquid.
Yeah.
And just a wild guess, how many fully employed people does a team of 5 players plus 1 reserve have? How many? 122. Wow. They have 18 people only working on social media, worldwide. They have a nutritionist, they have PTs, they have an MD, fully employed by the team.
Yeah,
It's been about to take off now in a big way. And the good thing here is that the city of Los Angeles have actually now employed 2 people only to develop esports inside Los Angeles. The city of Los Angeles. And of course, the little marketing pitch, we are now trying to build a gaming bridge to Helsinki with LA on those things of how to do it. So it's kind of crazy. And just the last quote, there was a question in a panel that I was on to the Team Liquid guy, and they asked sort of that is esports going to be an Olympic game 2028 when the Olympics are in LA? And I said that, listen, we don't need the Olympics. The Olympics need us. Unfortunately, I think he's absolutely right.
I think you're right.
How many people practice pole vaulting in the world? Right? And how many people play esports?
You're right. So it's a really interesting point is that with Twitch and the Twitch community, the revenue that gamers are getting from Twitch, it's getting harder and harder to recruit for professional esports.
Because they would rather be
They
online.
make more money sitting in their own apartment in their jammies than they can traveling around the world. But it's interesting. So remember in the 80s and early 90s when people were taking boy bands and through marketing they were manufacturing? Nobody's really done that yet with the esports teams. And I think there's a huge opportunity to have those teams burst into pop culture in the same way they did with boy bands. I think there's just a ton of opportunities that nobody's taking advantage of.
I think it's hot. I think it's right. Bill.
So I did a YPO tour of League of Legends where they showed us behind the scenes. They have a whole division for costume development. They have a whole division for music. They have I mean, it's unbelievable. The thing that was most interesting to me is they hire about 20 professional psychologists who basically have one goal. They need to make the game hard enough to make it addictive, but not so hard that you opt out. So they sit there with these kids playing the game all the time and just trying to be right on the verge of making it challenging enough to get more users, but not so challenging that you opt out.
Makes sense. Yes.
One more thing on that. I think nobody in this room, nobody in the world knows where this is going right now. I mean, when we think back to when TV first came on, the first TV shows were basically radio shows adapted to TV. And this is basically traditional sports adapted to esports. So I don't even think that.
You think the format will change?
Yeah, this is not even what we're going to see in 10 years. We don't know what we're going to see in
Okay, so that's a great one. Okay.
Ken, when you go to one of these arenas and you're watching all this, what actually are you watching? Are you seeing the players playing on like 19 different screens? Or what
Yeah, you see it. It's choreographed like that. Who's been to a couple? I've been to a couple. How do you describe what you see? Back there.
Oh, it looks like if you go down to Burbank for the Overwatch League, it looks like an indoor high-tech arena with about 60 screens. They have skyboxes up top. It's incredible.
It really is. It just blows my mind that it is perceived as a sport like golf, right? Because I actually think you exercise more here than golf maybe. Just saying, guys. Scratch golf for saying that, just to let you know.
Sweat's not a sport.
Kelly.
It's interesting how they're transitioning and actually training as athletes, and that's kind of what happened with golf with Tiger Woods. Is now they're all becoming it's a very athletic sport, my opinion. But they
as long as you don't use the golf cart.
Yeah, they're training outside of that as athletes, and they're doing that with this. Is really cool.
Fair enough. Again, I wanted you guys to be aware of this. Pay closer attention. This is is that your hand up?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
Ready Player One, when are we going to have something like that come about? When you have the issue of responsible businesses doing this stuff, and how do we make these games work for society? I mean, there's really good business
It was an incredible movie. What was it? 2050 is where it was in the movie. I think that's where the movie took place. Was 2050 in Cincinnati.
Because consciousness hacking.
Columbus, Ohio. There you go.
There's a whole neuroscience consciousness hacking movement that already has a bunch of games to then do the opposite of making it addictive, but making it therapeutic. So I'd love to see those developments maybe in another topic.
Like to see that too.
Yeah.
AR stuff. So again, you guys had a chance with Bitcoin. Many of you did well with it. I know some of you are playing the Canada space, but pay close attention to the esports side because this might be another one of those open territories. And like what Griff said, he's seen some of the $10 million ones. There's some $1 billion ones out there, but he hasn't hit it yet. But you know they're there. You just know they're there. So pay a closer attention to this. All right, so guys, many of you saw the email I sent out yesterday, and I kind of want to give you some insight of what's going on because I'm basically able to move forward and do a lot of different things. And I got to admit, from Austin's help, whose birthday is tomorrow, he's 21 tomorrow, Austin. To what Steven's doing, and Lloyd, Nathaniel, everybody's been helping out, and it's great. And we're trying to be more cohesive on where things are going to be heading. So I wanted to kind of break it down into 4 different areas. First is online, next is inline, the other one is the community, and then also activities. And my problem has been in the past is I say, hey, let's do this, and I'm all excited about doing it, and I start moving forward, and in the past I got a kibosh on it because it wasn't practical, or my partner at the point in time just didn't want to do it. I don't have that anymore. So let me first talk about online. So right now online, we primarily deal with workplace, which who here is not on workplace? Not on workplace. We need to change that because I thought you're on workplace. You're on workplace? We need to change that. So you need to get on workplace. Most of the conversations I see, individual pod conversations, we put the videos inside here. If you want to go watch the video presentations of past speakers, it's all inside workplace. And then we got this kind of weird website. What we're trying to do is bring these two together as we move forward. There's enough APIs inside Workplace to connect with the new website and vice versa. So one of the big deals for us is, if you notice, we're trying to get you to do more things online, like pay to come to Saturday. Well, it'd be great to go on to a website and say, hey, I went to that medal on May 4th. Who else was there? And it's there. Well, that's one of the reasons why we want you to pay online, is because then we have a record of that right away. So everyone has a unique ticket. So there's a process we're trying to go through. Some of you may not like it, but there's a bigger picture behind it and a reason behind it. But we're going to try to merge these together. We're not completely sure exactly how to do it yet. We're started, yes?
Ken, I was on Workspace, is that right?
Workplace.
Workplace, and I got bumped off somehow. Was someone able to communicate with me about
Yep.
it?
Yep. All that, just literally, guys, you can talk to Steven or myself, and we'll get it going. Because like I said, I literally got all the access back this week on everything. So I have not had access to any of these things. So that's the first thing, is the online. Let's talk about inline. Blows my mind. You know, guys, our women like to pay online, men like to pay inline. I don't know why, maybe you like to socialize, whatever it is. I like that I posted this letter to you guys, and everyone said, oh, great thing, except one guy said, you need to fix something and actually go back to something, and that is bring the hot girls back. Thanks, Joe. Yeah. And preferably the Asians, as Joe said. So, inline, obviously what we're trying to get you guys to do is to prepay. And by doing that, two things happen. One, you don't have the hassle of waiting in line. Two, I get your commitment. Because it happens too often, 20 people won't show up, even though they said they are going to show up. So I'd rather do whatever I can to get your commitment on actually showing up to Saturday, because I do plan things. I'm going to do something a little later on, and I actually went and looked at the RSVP knowing who's here, because I want to do something with the people that have RSVP that are here. So it's important that you actually say, yes, I'm going to be there, and make the commitment and just pay. Also, the prices are going to change. If you don't prepay and if you go in line, it's going to cost you $50. You're saving $15 every time you do that. Yes, Stephen?
I usually wait for the email at least a few times, which is the pay email. And I was just informed this morning that the pay point was actually on the invite, which I didn't realize. Maybe it needs to be a little bigger icon, because I didn't know I could prepay just on the normal invite email.
Fair enough, and that was one of the problems actually also is we're very limited on the ping that we use, which is the invitation system. So we're going to craft our own invite system. This is something I'm working with Lloyd on. Lloyd is the mastermind over here, but Lloyd is going to France today, I think, so when he comes back, we'll start diving in that. Go on vacation, Lloyd?
No, I'm helping the guys over at Hyperloop with their, our company's doing the network infrastructure for their new operations control center.
Why don't you seem thrilled about it?
People might not see the outside of the office.
Silence is golden. Yeah, I know, right? Go to France, you don't see anything of France. So prepay. Next is.
Hey, Ken, question. I had a FastPass account.
I'm going to talk about that now.
Oh, okay. Because the money disappeared.
It did disappear.
Oh, okay.
I'll talk about that. I'm going to talk about that. That's it. So we went and looked at the biggest bottlenecks when it comes to metal checking in. The biggest bottlenecks are FastPass and name tags. Takes the most time. And as we're about to now grow this, the last thing I want is a long line outside. I want to make this effective and efficient. We're media entertainment technology. We shouldn't have long lines, okay? So what we're doing is we're phasing out FastPass. You have it credit for how much you have in there. Not a lot of people, only I think 16 people had FastPass accounts. That's it. But it took a lot of time. Now you can prepay, and that's the goal. And quite frankly, next year we'll create packages where you can say, I want to pay for the next 6 months or something like that, which will give you other discounts too. But FastPass we have to phase out. Name tags. Name tags, I love that you guys, by the way, I have a tendency to even forget somebody I may have seen 3 or 4 or 5 times. Name tag helps me out, and I think they're very important. I would prefer you to have more responsibility with those, meaning you take those home. Those are yours. And what I really would like to do, and this is just me being ambitious, I would like our name tags also to double as a loyalty card for our partners. So when you go to a certain restaurant that's part of Metal, you get a discount or some type of reward. So your name card, which you would place with your name pointing outward when you're here, you would put in your wallet or bring back with you, but you would utilize externally outside, something like what KCRW does with their loyalty points or cards. So that's the goal. The goal is to start moving this. Will it get solved right away? No. There's some hiccups. We're trying new technologies. You saw we're using Venmo, which I know a couple of you are trying. We put Square back in, PayPal, and we have some other ways, but we're trying to include as many as possible. And Larry, if you want to use Bitcoin, you can. All right, so that's in line. Let me talk about community.
Can you back up 1 second?
Yes, sir.
Why we didn't see an email that was the Metal billing this week? I talked to Lloyd.
You're the only guy that asked for that.
No, I asked him.
No, you sent me an email.
He just asked about it.
Wait, who sent me an email? I only got one email. You sent me an email too, Steve?
I actually called you.
You call, don't never call. My language is a text.
I sent you a text.
And I sent it right away, but guys, you can't do that. You're a big boy now.
Wait a minute.
Pay it online.
Lloyd said it was at the base of the email you sent out explaining the changes that were gonna happen today. We're gonna have a discussion about changes. At the bottom of that email, I didn't see.
Yeah, the payment link was at the bottom of the invitation email, yeah.
The payment link has been in there for the last 6 months. You guys just don't go down. Many of you should go down every once in a while. Just try it. You might be surprised what's there. Just saying. Okay, let's talk about community.
Last night, my throat is still.
Yeah. But most of us are double jointed like you. Let's talk about community. So, I thought it was interesting, many of you don't know how to invite people. And I didn't realize, and again, the invitation system we have, it's actually very limited. It's not easy to forward that, which we'll try to change and give you a link, because I want you to invite people. I want to start seeing newer faces here so we can encourage more growth. So we have room for growth, and I want to really stress that. I really want to encourage newer faces and bring more people in here. I want to talk about the pods too. I know Darren's not here, Kevin Oki. Kevin Oki sent me an email saying, I am a horrible pod leader, I am so sorry. I'll tell you, who's pod leaders that are happy with their pod? Raise your hand.
Right here.
Pod leader, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there's only a handful. Who's that back there?
Lonnie.
Who is that? Oh, Mike. Yeah, so Lonnie, no, pod leader.
No, I'm happy with my pod.
Oh, yeah. Pod leader, I said. So, but this is I'm happy you're happy line. Pods need to change. And the reason why is because there are some people that can run them, some can't. Because it does take commitment. Glenn, you kill it with your pod. You guys get together regularly. I see the pictures of you guys all hanging out online. You meet at good places. The irony is your pod's all about longevity. It looks like your pod's killing it. Will Henschel's is killing it. Actually, Will's is expanding beyond the size of a normal pod. But I will redevelop this, and I'd love to get your insight on how to make it better. I'm more or less following what YPO does and how they've been doing it, but we need to tweak this a little more. Last, to me, this is a passion of mine. I've been wanting to do this. I've been somewhat held back, and it has nothing to do with you guys. It's Metal X. Metal X is the women's metal, which is different. So Metal X operates different, and there's a reason why it's so important, because I believe it means a lot for our growth as in metal. So Metal X operates differently because how it works is it has 2 different components. It has a here and a there component. So how it works is when you want to pitch it to somebody here, we actually get together every other week at a designated specific area, and it's only a group of 50. And we go through the same thing, one speaker, but there's a lot of personal growth. So it's kind of like a pod meets metal. Pod meets metal, and then there's a there, and a there's online. And online, somewhat similar format, a speaker. So I got Sarah Blankley, who's confirmed to be a speaker. I got the Prime Minister of New Zealand, who confirmed to be a speaker. They're somewhere else. So people come together on Zoom, and the topics are different. It's gonna be hard to read all these, but these are the topics that I've been working on and designing for Metal X. And it's very much around empowering women. We've noticed in the past doing Metal X, because I've tried it several times, that there's something called the queen bee syndrome, which we don't suffer from in this group. 2 things that women do that us guys don't do. 1, if you don't like a guy that's in the group, you just sit somewhere else. If a woman knows that another woman that they don't like is going to be there, they just don't show up, which sucks. And then, when you have a very powerful woman, the last Metal X, I got 5 very successful, $500 million+ type women together. Very successful women. What happens is, they would come to me later on going, oh, I love this event, it's incredible, it's great. But if she shows up, I can't come again. Really? Why not? You got so much to share. No, because they want to be at the top. So what happened is, I invited too many queen bees. And I didn't realize that there really is this this process. So I'm going to not invite Queen Bees other than the ones that will be speakers or to help out. So I hope all these women become Queen Bees eventually. But this is what MetalX is, and I'm going to be putting a lot of time. And by the way, many of you will be the speakers inside MetalX on top of it. So that's how I'm going to bring all of us together on a regular basis. And then last will be activities. I love activities. So we've had some great activities. Of course, the hikes. Again, tomorrow's going to be a great hike. You know, it's nice to see 40, 50, 60, 70. I think the most we've had is like 93 people come on one hike. That's huge. That's like this group all going on one hike. These are incredible things to do. Our trips have been amazing around the world, you know, and of course from paintball to just going out to Catalina and doing things like this. We'll be doing more trips. There'll be more co-ed trips than more co-ed activities. Wine tasting, going to different places. I just talked to one Shotwell from SpaceX. She would love to bring a metal continuum to go out there. I know we could do stuff over at JPL. So more activities, and they'd be scheduled. And I'm actually bringing somebody on that's going to be an activities director per se to do all that. So these are the things that I hope to see happen. They're not too ambitious, meaning we've done it before. Now it's just scheduling things. So let's just all grow together. The value of being a metal member is one, you get to come here on Saturdays. If you're not a metal member, you only get to come once every quarter. You get access to the website and to the people and to the activities. So if you want to bring somebody in, make sure they can be committed to be part of the group. And that's just really important. All right, a couple of people I want you to know today. A couple of people that you already know. First, John, what did you do last week? Why were you in Chicago?
I was in Las Vegas.
Oh, Vegas, that's it, Vegas, why?
I gave a talk to an executive search firm. There was 200 people from around the world coming in, and it was a shootout between me and 2 other speakers. And when I was talking to the CEO, trying to figure out why should I hire you versus the other people, the key factor was really asking them enough questions to find out what their particular problem was. And they have to pitch against 2 other firms typically to get hired to find the next executives. And he said, I would tell my team to be the last one to pitch because that's what makes you memorable. I said, if I can teach your team how to become storytellers, then it won't matter what order you're in because the story will make you memorable. And he said, oh, then we set the bar, we have better stories? I said, yes, and that's how I got that sale. So the more specific you are on solving a specific problem in your keynote, the more likely they are to hire you.
I like that. There you go. Rich, what's going on? How's the East Coast? Since you moved there?
Yeah, I've been pretty nomadic lately. I did like the last couple months I've been traveling a bunch. I went to Maine, for instance, and I created some content with maple syrup for the Rich Nuts brand. You basically put your content from the tree into the can. That was really exciting for me. I went to Alabama after that.
Well, weren't you moving to the East Coast?
Yeah, I've been in South Carolina, but literally I've only been there 2 or 3 weeks. And we're moving back.
Why don't you announce that? What's going on?
We're moving back to LA. We've got a place in Pacific Palisades. Rich Nuts is starting to take off. We're in Erewhon now, so.
That's awesome. One bag of the nuts are $77.
Yeah, that's crazy. We're working on the pricing with manufacturing companies, so we're gonna be able to bring the pricing down, because I know that's a sticky point for us. We have to be rich to buy our nuts, that's another joke here. But yeah, things are going really well, the manufacturer is amazing, we're gonna be able to create this thing at scale and then blow it out of the water. So I really appreciate all the people that have supported. If you guys wanna continue to support, just go buy an expensive bag at Erewhon, so we can get that thing rolling.
I'm game for that. That's awesome.
Thanks.
All right, another person, Jason. Jason, stand up. I have no idea how much of a handyman you are. So, Jason, most people don't know this. You actually fly here on Fridays and you leave on Monday mornings to go back.
1:30 in the morning.
Your office, your factory, your facility is actually in the Bay Area, right?
Everything's based in San Jose.
Right. So you're here on the weekends, and you're almost nomadic yourself. You really don't do much other than the hikes and hang out.
I basically do metal and go back to San Jose.
That's it. But you want to hang out with more like-minded people.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
What's your hidden talent?
I'm the most mechanically inclined person you'll probably
Ever. He walked into my house, and within 2 hours, he did more than the last 4 months of me hiring somebody. It was incredible what you did, and you had fun. You like had a heart on the whole time. I think that's what it was.
Something like that.
No, but you want more activities and you want more people.
Yeah, totally. I mean, one of our biggest things is because I'm in town 48 hours at a time. We just don't know anybody in town. So we came down here to move originally, and then I have to fly to San Jose every week now. So we kind of do metal hike, and then turn around and fly back out.
It's crazy, it really is. And you live in Redondo, which makes it.
Yeah, so I'm way down from everybody too.
You know what, I mean, that's where you live. Got a couple, who's in South Bay? You got a couple of South Bay people, there you go, right there. Awesome, thank you, Jason. Eric, stand up. Eric is somebody that we actually connected at the gym. You've come to him out a couple times, and all in 2 weeks, your life changed a lot. How did it change in 2 weeks?
I lost my job and cut ties with my girlfriend. Almost 100% different from what I was doing 3 weeks ago, which was working 10, 12 hours a day and seeing her at night. And now I wake up and there's kind of a wide open.
Have you met Jason? Do you need anything fixed in your house?
We can talk, maybe. I'm not mechanically inclined, so.
And you didn't lose your job because you're a bad worker. You lost your job because they did a cut.
Yeah. So my company was acquired in the fall and then merged with another company and the PE firm after a bad first quarter came in and kind of wiped the slate clean with the legacy people that were getting paid.
What industry are you in?
Software.
Yeah, but
I work in sales.
Eric admits he loves to sell.
Now I might be able to make some time.
Great, thank
He
you.
loves to sell. Period. He loves to sell.
Yeah.
That's your favorite thing. I mean, I love hearing that. Somebody loves what they do. He loves to sell stuff. And he knows the software space real well. He knows the online space, social media space also.
Yeah.
But we were talking, and we were hanging out at the gym, and he said, I don't know what to do with my time right now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Has anyone else gone through this process where you have a whole bunch of time on your hands, and then you found a solution around that? You raise your hand back there, Stephen. How'd you solve that?
I started just doing stuff that was valuable.
Like?
Working out, just having conversations with people, learning languages.
Learning languages.
Just anything that's valuable until I can figure out, doing good things until I can figure out what the best thing was.
That's good. Steve?
Yeah, as any kind of time that things go bad is really an opportunity to create new things. So you can use this time to create things that maybe you've always wanted to do, but I haven't time to do it.
Yeah.
Do you feel, because you were talking about possibly taking a trip somewhere.
So I was just gonna tell you,
Go
so
ahead.
Ken, so I was gonna, just maybe the day before I saw Ken at the gym, I was like, oh, I've got some time, maybe slow down a little bit, and I was gonna go to Italy, and he started questioning me, he's like, well, that's great, and then somehow we started talking about being Scandinavian, so now I'm going to Norway and Ireland as well, thanks to you.
Are you? You should do that, right? Well, you see,
He's
that's
like,
your
have you ever
roots.
been to the motherland, have you ever visited Norway, I'm half Norwegian, and I said, no, he's like, well, think about it, here's 2 cities you should check out.
Svalbard, I told him to go to. Go check it out.
Now I'm going.
You think Svalbard? Norway. But you have time also. And how many people say they're a great salesperson, they love to sell? When someone admits that, you definitely want to know who they are. If you remember when the Barefoot Wine people spoke, okay? If you remember Michael and Bonnie, they said there's 2 divisions in the best companies in the world. 2 divisions. One is sales, and the second is the one that supports sales. That's it. So you're in sales, that's great, and Eric, it's great to have you here too. So make sure you guys all connect there.
Thanks, Eric.
All right. So, who needs to go hang out with? Let's see what else we got going here. Did you guys see this? Now, I actually find her very entertaining. I love watching her. I think she's a bulldozer, right? I really do, and I think the change is necessary to see somebody in there that questions what's going on. And it's obviously the 2 extremes. You have young and old. But when I saw this, I really started questioning if they got it. When was the last time you were in a post office? right? A couple of days ago. Did you like it?
I think it's not for the people in this room, but it's for a lot of people that are not in this room who could have a lot less money.
Well, there you go. But let's talk about that. So this is the proposal. And if we look at the whole, let's talk about the post office. When you start looking at the post office, just this time right here, they lost $4 billion. Okay? What Andrew?
Well, it's pointless. Like, how much did the interstate freeway system lose last year? Why does it need to make money?
Why does it need to make money?
Yeah.
because it's not a fully government-owned entity. So there's a difference.
It's not at all owned by the government.
But it is still managed by
It's
Congress.
It's manipulated by the Congress in their own budget. So
That's
we
right.
gotta go back and clean out the house that fucked up the post office with their pension plan.
Well, that's what we're having to look at. We have to look at this environment here, and that is, really, do we want the post office to be the banking industry? I mean, if you...
Government can run the post office like a business.
They buy commercials like businesses do. But real businesses can't lose billions every year. 16 billion last year. The post office loses money even though
they don't pay sales taxes. They don't pay property taxes. They don't even pay their parking tickets.
Congress says post offices must serve all of America. But
There's another post office a mile down the road.
in fact, there are 5 others within a few miles. Why do they need so many, so close to each other? Even the locals see the excess.
They should be cut back to probably a couple.
There are a bunch of post offices
I
around.
think it's kind of silly.
Close these post offices.
We're working on it, and,
What do you mean you're working on it? A business just does it.
we're expected to operate like a business, but Congress has not allowed us the flexibility to operate like a business.
Mickey Barnett is chairman of the Post Office Board.
On your website, you say, since Ben Franklin, the Postal Service has grown and changed with America. But you don't change. You're a government monopoly. You barely change.
250,000 less and fewer employees than we had.
But you don't fire anybody.
No.
If government did fire people, the big government media would say things like this.
They are hell-bent on seeing the U.S. Postal Service die.
So the managers just wait for workers to quit or retire.
Attrition is kinder. That's why you do it.
Well, we have union contracts that also have no layoff provisions in it and so forth.
How can you run a business that way?
It's part of being a quasi-governmental entity that's how the cookie crumbles.
That's your tax money that's crumbling.
Private delivery services like FedEx continue to thrive while the Postal Service bleeds billions.
FedEx, UPS, and others make billions because they innovate and cut costs.
So this idea of having the post office as, I don't know, your bank, that's almost like brought to you by the DMV, right? By the way, that's Culver City's DMV, just to let you know, I had to take a picture of it because it just blew my mind. I took this picture and I came back 45 minutes later and almost the same people were sitting there, right? It's like, oh my gosh. What they're good at is lines, they really are. So the idea of having this quasi-government entity be your bank structure, and again, what they said is every citizen needs to have access. It's what Ellen said, it's true, it's important. But there are entities out there, and I know many of you are gonna go, you gotta be kidding me, I'm even bringing this up. But when you start looking at what the post office wants to do, this is the whole idea. They don't want this almost 360 type of approach. They want to be that center for everything. And I feel really uncomfortable because it's mismanaged as it is. But when you start looking at for-profit entities like this, you're thinking this is horrible. They gouge people. I don't know about that. I had a chance to really interview a few of these people on my radio show a few years ago, and I realized the ones that are ethical, that's the key, by the way, they run really good, sound businesses. They found out where to put them, and they do have certain interest fees that might seem high, but they're posted, meaning people know what they are. Here's the example.
For most of us, going to the local bank to deposit a check is second nature, but for many poor people in the New York neighborhood of the South Bronx, it's not. More than half the residents here don't have a bank account. So on a Friday afternoon, customers trickle into Right Check, a check cashing store. They're paying bills, buying money orders, and cashing checks at a type of business often criticized for seeming to exploit the poor by charging high fees. But on this day, one of these tellers is not like the others. Lisa Servan is actually a professor of urban policy at the New School in Manhattan, and her job at this check cashing store is part of a research project to find out why people choose to come here despite the fees rather than going to a bank. What were your impressions of check cashing?
I thought the same thing that you see in the press. I would say the literature that called check cashers abusive and predatory and, being businesses that were really taking advantage of the poor. So I couldn't really, go undercover as a poor person. It wouldn't have really worked. But I called Joe 5 years after he came to my class and I asked if he'd hire me as a teller.
For 4 months last fall, the professor commuted to the South Bronx and worked weekly as a teller in one of Coleman's stores. She soon discovered that just getting quick access to their money, as opposed to waiting for a check to clear in a bank, is a big reason poor customers use check cashing services, despite fees that nationally average about 4%.
They're having to pay fees to cash your check.
Yep.
Isn't it better to do that at a bank where it costs almost nothing?
In fact, a lot of people did have bank accounts and a lot of others had bank accounts and didn't any longer.
Servan interviewed customers for her research, and she says one reason banks are seen as more expensive is a lack of transparency about fees. Many customers didn't know what the fees were and when they were going to hit.
When you walk into a check casher, you see the fees for every service is posted in huge font, and you walk into a bank, and there's no signage at all.
People with bank accounts are given disclosure agreements, laying out when you'll pay a bank fee and for how much. But those agreements typically run nearly 70 pages.
So would you rather use a bank if you could?
We spent time at some check cashing stores in the South Bronx and heard a great deal of distrust about banks and complaints about their services. The time it took for checks to clear, there not being enough branches in poor neighborhoods, the high penalties for bouncing a check, and hidden fees.
I'd rather catch my money here and I have the whole money that I need instead of putting it in a bank where by the time I realize they're taking half my money out.
So there's alternatives. So the post office becoming the bank, Joe?
Yeah, you probably know I used to live in South Central, and so there's a whole thing called good economics, and I almost leased one of my properties to one of these places. The point is, they're missing the biggest reason why people use these check cashing places. I can't believe, I don't know what kind of research you did. The reason they do it is because, let's say you're on Section 8, you're on disability, you're on unemployment, you're on any kind of what I call good economics, government subsidization existence. You don't take your check to the bank that you got for some other thing you're doing or whatever because you lose your benefits. So you go to the check cashing place and you pay the fee. It's like when I was a private banker in Geneva, okay? My clients would come to me, pay our extortion-like fees. I mean, like to trade $50,000 of stock, guess what the commission is at a private bank in Geneva? It's $1,000 to buy and another $1,000 to sell. But in any event, that's why this stuff exists. And I can't believe that went right over this person's head. Because also the people they're interviewing, she's not gonna go, well, you know what, I'm on disability or I'm on this, I'm on that. If I cash my check, I might lose my benefit. You know, and the other thing is also Switzerland.
The paycheck, you can't show the paper trail for that.
Exactly.
There you go.
Right, and Switzerland, all of its banking is run through a post office. It does exactly what the US Postal Service is trying to do right here, and it kind of sucks.
Mark?
The other thing is that the check cashing gets people in the door. That accounts for maybe 10 to 50% of the revenue. The rest is payday loans, which is usurious fees.
That's predatory.
Monthly.
That's
And
predatory.
that's what's criminal.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
700% is what they charge.
Remittance are there too, but I'm just saying that some of these places actually don't do that. This one right here, Right Pay is actually a good place, but some of them you're right, they're predatory. Greg, last one, go ahead.
So I've done a fair amount of work with banking and public banking. I gave a talk last year about that with North Dakota has their own bank. But it's not, the duality of business versus government is the very problem we have. To have a hybrid organization with both organizations not knowing how to manage the middle. So the idea of how do we weave ethics into a private institution that is about competition, because pricing and competition are insufficient to manage the ethical side. So this is some of the stuff that we have to, in this room, figure out how to merge those kinds of intentions into a private business. And that's the kind of stuff that Bank of England is talking about. Bank of England is actually talking about doing check cashing kind of services, but having branches to do this, which is an innovative way because they're a hybrid organization, but they're not clusterfucked by Congress. So this is the kind of stuff that we're starting to explore in California because we're not a federal agency. So this is the kind of things that we should look into.
I'm bringing up all these topics, these are things we should be talking about. These are important things. Transparency is obviously the key on that. And I just wanted to bring that up. Mantalk, we have hit some pretty serious topics on Mantalk. From early baldness which distills a conversation that goes on to, self-love. We've hit all these different topics, and it blows my mind how open we've become on these topics now. We're willing to share. We had a great conversation a couple of weeks ago about excessive drinking, and I know a lot of people came together and started working together on that aspect, and I'd love to see the community come together. I want to talk about something being a dude that we all kind of sometimes, we mess up on sometimes. We just do it wrong, and that is breaking up. Now, we can talk about breaking up in your business with your business partner, or we can talk about breaking up in a relationship. I want to talk about the latter of the two, and that's breaking up in a relationship. I realize that when we break up, I have a superpower, the strangest, weirdest superpower, and I hate to admit it. And a handful of people know what my superpower is, and it's, I would say, 100% accurate, and that's my problem. I hate that it's 100% accurate. What is it, Ryan?
Well, I'm just providing some consolation to my friend who just said
It just broke up. Freddie, what's my superpower?
You have the ability to foresee a breakup or divorce.
Before it happens. It sucks. I don't make it happen. I actually knew I was going to break up but I wanted not to see that happen, so I did whatever I could. I saw it years before, but I didn't want it to happen, so I did everything I can to band-aid it all. But in that breakup, if it's done wrong, it's horrible. Because a relationship, Ryan and I were together 15 years, and everyone says, oh, that's too bad. I think, why? That's a successful relationship in some of this. Think about it. I've stayed together more than most .com companies. I've stayed together, I'm being serious, most TV shows generally last maybe 2 or 3 years. I had a successful relationship. 15 years is successful. Maybe the outcome wasn't, but it was a successful relationship. I looked at it the wrong way, going, man, it was a bad relationship, because it ended the wrong way. The breakup was bad. The irony is, next weekend, something is happening to me that has never happened in my life. My 2 kids are going to be in town next week. My daughter coming today, and then my son and my ex-wife are coming in next week to stay with me. I look at Bill Dorfman, and Bill does this with his ex-wife. They're great friends. Matter of fact, they live in the same building together. And I always look at Bill going, man, how does he do that? That's incredible. I wish I could co-parent like that. And it's happening now. Because I realize that the breakup may have been bad between her and I, but the relationship hasn't really corroded and destroyed one another. We found a way to become more sane between one another. But we have all gone through a breakup. And when it's bad, it's destructive. Not just to the person you're with, but to the community around them too. It can get really bad. So I think we all need to pay attention to how to break up the right way. Because it's a serious, serious thing to do. And a lot of us guys, either we start ghosting the person on the other side, especially if they don't live with you, or we do the easy way out. But it affects somebody on the other side. And here in LA, it kind of sucks because we're somewhat notorious for, especially guys, we start to go in our own path and we ignore the person we were with. And I think we need to renegotiate that situation. So on that breakup, by the way, I have to admit, I try to do very gender neutral graphics because we actually have, I want to say something around 25 to 30% of metal members are gay. And every time I put a guy and girl up there, I'm not being fair to the other part of the metal group. So I try to find a lot of gender neutral, like you don't see guy and girl, but breakup is the same thing for everybody. So let's dive into this. So on the breakup aspect, who's broken up recently? Who did the breakup? Did you do the breakup? How'd you do it, Eric?
I had to go over to my house and just chatted about things that I wasn't happy with, and said, this isn't working for me, but wanted to break up amicably. That was nice.
And that was it. Anything broken after that?
There you go.
Anything broken in your house?
No.
No. Anyone else break up recently? How'd you do it?
No, it actually was super easy. We're actually really, really good friends.
Was that the girl that's like really 30 years younger than you?
Yeah, really young.
Did you do it correct crayon? You did, but there was substance abuse on her side, right?
Yeah, she actually, the good thing is she's doing amazing.
right? Anyone else recent breakup? Anyone been broken up on, or they broke up with you? No? No one here? Okay, let's talk about this. What do you mean? Just now?
No.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you last relationship, yeah, okay. These are what you should be doing. You know, really, you gotta give it the gravity it deserves. We're breaking up. It may not be a big deal to you, but it's probably a big deal to the other person, especially if they told you over and over again how much they care, their affection. Make sure you're aware of that. Next. Be honest about it's happening. We're breaking up. You know, I don't want to be in this. This is not, it's not you, it's me. You know, let's be careful of that. Make it a clean break, not like, you know, let's try, maybe like 3 or 4 days, let's not talk to each other. Let's try that. Lottery was actually gonna play all around this idea of the process of breaking up and not being together the last couple of days, just to see if it's better not being together. Don't do it like at, you know, Whole Foods. You know, don't do it. And by the way, I've seen it happen in Whole Foods recently in the produce section, and it was not good. It wasn't. Be clear about, this one's really important, what the relationship gave you. God, I got so much incredible, just places we've gone to, the things we've done, show that there was real value in the relationship. Be kind, don't be a dick. Remember your needs, because a lot of times we forget about that. Don't drag it out. This one's really important right here. This right here is better known as, hey, let's still be fuck buddies. That's what the last one is. And that happens a lot. We try to do this. Yeah, you know what? Let's break up, but I'll visit you, you visit me, and let's linger. You know, a lot of times that clean break is most important. Who has followed this path the right way? Because I haven't. You have? Who's that back there?
Glenn?
Glenn, you've done it the right way?
I'd say 80% of that.
What did you miss out on? How's that working for you?
Actually, it's been working kind of pretty well. And then it was about 1.5 years ago I broke up. And then 6 months in, we decided to hang out, get drunk, and you know, maybe see if there's any kind of old feelings. But once we kind of got there, and then she at the time she started dating someone else. It was just at the beginning, and she was a great gal. So we're about to engage, and then she just had a momentary second of conscience, and she was like, "Oh, I don't know if I should be doing this." And I realized at that one moment, my mojo just completely died out, because like all of that effort of like courting and doing a tap dance to get into her pants, like way at the beginning of our relationship, that mojo was like all used up. So like I couldn't get it out of, like, I couldn't feel that like urge or need to like sleep with her. So I just said, okay, it's all right, and then I passed out. So I realized that.
Well, this is all the same day.
That short like moment, I realized something that like, wow, that's like magic potion that us guys have that we use to, you know, get at our target. But with her, it was all used up over 5 years. So I don't know, that was just my experience.
But she's still your fuck buddy?
No. We're great friends now. Like, she's like a sister to me now.
Yeah, you can't fuck your sister.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure you're Alabama, right? Wherever there's a Cracker Barrel. Yeah. Anyone else?
Quick one.
What do you got?
One thing you kind of missed is.
No, next to you. Is that Gil?
Mike, let me just finish my sentence. I'll just
No,
say-
hang on. Go ahead. You've been talking all day. Next. Go ahead.
I wanted to add one thing that could be up here, because these are all great. Another one is having a period where you actually don't talk to each other at all, or if it is, it's just really simple direct communication.
Distance.
And it's because like our minds have a way that we see ourselves with our previous partner, and codependent tendencies will just stay there.
Good point.
If you continue to talk to your ex-partner, and it will keep you remaining as the identity that you were rather than who you are and are becoming.
Do you ever feel like sometimes in the relationship, you're also in love with what the relationship was, maybe not the person?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you get caught up in that, and that's, oh, I got it. And that's why sometimes we dwell in what that relationship was, not that person. They were just part of that. You're gonna say some search.
Yeah, this is where I want to jump in. It should be clear about what the relationship gave you, because you may hang on to it, and then you don't want to drag it out because of that, because then you, oh, it was so good, and you're gonna hold on to really good things.
Yeah.
But then you forget about why we're actually doing it.
There you go. You got photos. Photos are the killer, aren't they? James?
I just want to maybe change the context and the positioning of how we define breakup and why we get so
James, when was the last time you actually broke up with a girl?
2 months ago.
How many girls were you dating at the same time? I just know you, buddy, right? So breaking up was harder for her than you.
No, actually, she announced the breakup.
Oh, she announced it because she found out you were dating other girls?
She wanted something particular, and I wasn't able to provide that for her.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
So actually, for me, breakup is an opportunity to break open. Sometimes we get caught in a particular pattern or paradigm that actually doesn't necessarily serve us or the other person. And it's part of the journey. We have these attachments that we possess somebody else and they become our whole. Then it's very easy to see a breakup as something like we're losing something. But
makes sense.
I think the idea of seeing a breakup as an opportunity to break open and expand into
To what's next?
No,
To something else?
I don't define relationships in terms of sex. I think there are many.
I didn't say sex. No, what's next?
What's next?
Yeah.
Just the opportunity to expand into the new possibilities.
Bill, how did you do it?
I always,
Can you talk about how your first breakup was horrible? Right?
with Evelyn?
Yes. No, your first wife.
No, so I've only been married twice. My first wife, Evelyn, and I had children together. And right from the get-go, we decided to put our kids first and be as cordial to each other as possible.
So that was a good breakup.
Yeah, and co-parent and, and I literally love Evelyn. She had a lot of issues that she actually has grown out of over the years. And the Evelyn I know today, I wouldn't have divorced. But it had to happen. My second marriage was to an idiot. And, I don't even know where she is. I mean.
But she broke literally on your 1-year anniversary.
Well, we had a prenup that basically said that she would not get any money unless we were married a year. So we celebrated our anniversary, our 1-year anniversary. The next day I got a call from TMZ asking me if I wanted to comment on my divorce. I'm like, I'm not getting divorced. They go, yeah, you are. She filed and didn't even tell me. And so.
And you were having dinner that night, weren't you?
What?
You were having dinner that night?
Yeah, but the nice thing is Harvey and I have become friends over the years. So the next day, he called me and said, "You really didn't know?" I said, "No." So if you go on TMZ and you search "what a bitch," there's a picture of her face. Full face picture. It's still on there.
Oh my God.
But I don't even know where she is. I mean, we had no reason to stay friends. We had nothing after that.
Evan.
I just had a question. So there's two types of breakups. Two? What are some of the things that guys would do to prepare themselves financially?
For divorce. Yeah, that's a tough one.
2 years. I'm getting married.
You don't know, no. But if you, 2 years? Who said 2 years?
I'm joking, not bills.
Well, no, but it does, if I could have planned certain things, first thing is you gotta do it fair. But you do have to make sure that, I have to be honest with you, I'll tell you the situation with Maya and I, we went through the process of breaking up. I knew if I would have launched a business between now and the 6-month process, that theoretically, and I feel obligated that Maya should have deserved it because we didn't sign documents yet. So I paused all my business launches until everything was signed, which made it very difficult for me. But I felt like it should have been part of hers, even though we weren't together, but we still own the business together. Does that make sense? So it depends. If you want to be real ethical, which can be a downside because it pulls things out, or if you need to hide stuff, it depends. I don't want to hide things anymore. But anyone gone through a successful divorce breakup? You've gone through a divorce, Greg?
Two. I've been through 2 divorces.
2 divorces?
Yeah. So.
You're good at it.
I said this to you guys, we all talked about it when you announced that you and Maya were breaking up, and I said, more or less, you gotta deal with your own shit and take responsibility for it. And that's one thing that's the missing part here, Ken, is that none of those things talk about the interior, because what I've observed in all the relationships that I've been in is that if I don't deal with the shit and make her the problem, then I will find someone else to replace her so I can make her the problem. And you don't say anything about that. And I think that some of that interior stuff we really need to get into, like the women metal thing, so we can actually start owning our own shit together and then getting more effective in all of our relationships.
Okay, that's pretty deep. I appreciate it. Stephen, you're last. Go ahead.
Hi. My wife wanted a divorce. I didn't want one. And when I finally agreed, I simply said, well, I only have 3 conditions. I don't want to see the inside of a courtroom. I don't want to talk to a lawyer. And I want to be able to see my kids as much as I want every day for the rest of my life. And I said, if you give me those 3 conditions, I'll simply give you everything and walk away. And that's how I got a divorce.
Wow.
Would you have changed that?
No.
Okay.
Wow.
As long as you stick to it. All right, guys, thanks for sharing on that. Last thing, IMA, yes.
I just want to give you an update on a couple weeks ago. Bill was kind enough to meet us for dinner. Mike and I and Joe joined us. And Mike and I actually just texted him, sort of like set up a little bit of an accountability thing. I've been drinking a month. I'm down
Really?
down 10 pounds.
That's fucking awesome.
No, he destroyed his bar. That was the big problem. He had a bar right behind his desk in the office. He disassembled the bar, and I made him send me a video of him completely destructing it, and then standing there crying as he's pouring all of this liquor down the drain. But the bar is gone.
10 pounds.
10 pounds, yeah.
You gotta feel good about it.
I ride my kid around. I was also diagnosed with sleep apnea. I don't know if any of you have that, or your advisor told you had that. It's changed my life. Like I wake up 150 times a night only during REM sleep. That's bad. So I got a CPAP machine that happens twice at night now. I'm sleeping for the first time. I'm engaged with my kid. I'm losing weight. Like if you think you might suffer from it, you haven't been sleeping for 3 years. It really fucked with me. So I thought I was going to. I was looking at anger management. I was told dick to be around all the time. No, I just hadn't slept. So
good job.
PSA for me to you guys. It's pretty common, especially if you're a little rounder, which I've gotten. So it's, look into it. You just go see an ENT. They do it.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Not
Thank you
drinking.
guys for-
Anyone else stop drinking for a while? Jason did. Who's that? Kevin, you stopped drinking? Wow. Congratulations, guys. It's a commitment. It is hard. All right, last thing before our speaker comes up. I don't watch sports. I really don't. I'd rather play the sport or own the team. That's kind of the way, I don't own a team yet. But I do, and I always liked those celebratory touchdowns or whatever took place. And back in 2015, the NFL cracked down on it. And last year, they came back and they retooled the whole celebratory touchdown things they can do inside the end zone. So if you're into football, these are the things you can do. Okay, you can use the football as a prop, you can celebrate on the ground, you can do a group demonstration. But if you leave the sidelines, there's a chance that you can be kicked out of the game. So you gotta stick around. So something like this you can do. But it is the referee's discretion to decide if you're going to get flagged or fined. So as you watch the new season of football start in August, just be aware that things will happen. So again, it's up to the ref on how it goes.
Welcome back to the Sports Channel Network, where today the San Antonio Spartans face the Portland Tigers.
Tigers on the Spartans 25, 4th and 2. Looks like they're going for it.
Stackhouse takes a snap, play action fake, and he floats one out to McCringleberry.
Avoids a tackle, shakes another defender. Touchdown, Tiger!
That is McCringleberry's 8th for the season.
Now, he needs to watch it on the celebration here. This ref enforces a strict 2-hip pump limit.
There's one, there's two.
Good ball, Anthony.
3rd and 10, and here's a snap, handoff to Matthias.
He seems in no hurry to get to the end zone.
Touchdown! Matthias still effective despite that hip and knee replacement. And they appear to be barbecuing the ball.
Very supply plays. It's not what the game is about.
And now he's basting it. That's going to draw the ref's attention.
Is there a 15-yard penalty if he pushes this too far? Looks like they're done.
But he's taking his helmet off, but I'm not sure. And now he's eating it.
Well, that's going for the flag. But it's offered to McCringleberry.
And there's the penalty. You just cannot eat the ball at this level of play. And touchdown Matthias. She is pumped about that one. Does a little quick hot potato with the ball.
That's a classic. Nothing wrong with that. Good to see.
Spoke too soon. Here's McCringleberry in a full hazmat suit.
Is that a tank of liquid nitrogen?
Apparently so. Looks like, yeah, he's cooling off the hot game ball, and he presents it back to Matthias, who had a hammer in his pants. That's a new way to spike the ball.
He's going to make him pay for that replacement ball.
The ref has the flag out. What's happening here? And it was pre-frozen. Touchdown McCringleberry. What a game he's having. And there's the spike. And he's pulled something out of his uniform.
Yeah, what's he doing now, Dick? It looks like he's inflating something.
Ref clearly warning him he's on thin ice.
Yeah, McCringleberry asking for a moment while he finishes whatever he's doing. McCringleberry better watch it.
Looks like, what's happening? What is that? Is that really?
It's a bouncy castle. And he's going to celebrate with big old bounce around that bouncy castle.
Can't blame him, that looks like fun. Here comes Matthias joining him.
The ref's got a flag this, Dick. Looks like we're going to hear the whistle in a second. No, he's getting in the castle himself.
But he better be careful.
All right. Hey guys, I want to thank you for just going through this whole, that's just education time. Before we bring up our feature speaker, there's 3 people. Quickly, Eric, you've been doing a lot of pain management, right?
Yes.
And what are the couple of things that you guys are doing on the pain management side?
So for us, what we're doing is we use quantum physics to restructure the way that electrons interact with nucleus, which is a fancy way of saying that we give existing natural materials the energy that a synthetic would give you within the body without side effects. So a lot of natural treatment, a lot of
Topical, or are we doing ingestible?
topical, inhalable, ingestible, a good mix of all of the above.
And this stuff, I mean, who's trying the quantum stuff? It works, doesn't it? It's freaking amazing. It's great.
I got a bunch here.
Can you tell them about the yellow pill?
I can, yeah. So we actually have formulated an herbal remedy that started out as a prostate drug. So out of all natural remedies, and something went wrong and ended up actually performing like an herbal Cialis.
Can I explain how it works? Because it's pretty amazing. You take it on a Sunday, and you go, you know what? I don't need it right now. So you're just loaded. So let's say he's taking it about 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and then Sunday afternoon you go, you know what? I want to have sex. It's ready to go. You're ready to go. All right, and you have sex. About 10 o'clock at night, you go, you know what? I'm ready to get. It's ready to go. Monday, you just think about it. It's ready to go. I don't know how you did it. It's like an on-demand erection pill.
So we've been trying to find a name for it, and the Forever 18 keeps coming up normal.
It's like 2 days, right?
The last half a pill, every Sunday, it'll balance your hormones too, but every Sunday I take half a pill. It lasts till about Friday, and I take another one on Sunday.
It's incredible. I'm just saying, guys, as long as you have a relationship, you don't want this if you're single, okay? But it's pretty amazing. Pain management. What?
Can we have freebies?
Freebies.
Not today.
Not today. Kelly, where are you? Kelly Carter, what do you do on the pain management?
several different approaches. I mean, pain management obviously has been a problem because of what's come about of this opioid addiction and everything. So I just get the body back into balance, and acupuncture is very, very successful with it. The active bicep stretching is very successful. I use CBD oil for a lot of things, but it's just get the body to heal and get you out of the pain loop.
But people have to understand, competition-wise, you are ranked one of the top in the country, right?
With what's that, with jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Oh, no, but I'm jiu-jitsu.
You're a badass. You're a badass.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. You don't want to mess with them. But you do a lot around pain management. Dr. Kim, are you here? Dr. Kim, someone goes in for anything around the prostate and they have surgery. What do you do on pain management?
I try to get them off narcotics as quickly as possible, and then get them on Tylenol, Toradol, things that are not derivatives of morphine.
Nothing that's addictive.
Yeah.
That's it. But you find your way first, but you have to go through a process, right? It's not immediate. So we have physical pain, we have pain from surgery, we have emotional pain, which we kind of touched upon. I think many of us get injured and hurt on a regular basis, especially if we're trying to stay in shape. Who suffers from some type of back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain? Wow, a lot of people here, a lot of people. Where's Ben Cook? Ben, you want to tell us about our next guest?
He's awesome, and we should hear what he has to say.
Why don't you tell us who he is?
Dr. Jason Worsland is a client of mine. I've known him for a couple months now, and he's just got an amazing journey that starts with pain and ends, on this amazing entrepreneurial path that is really been taking over the planet over the last couple of years. And he's going to share with us, some deep kind of medical stuff on the roots of pain, along with his entrepreneurial journey. So hopefully we'll learn more interesting things.
You up for that? You ready? Come on up, Jason. Here.
This is cool. I don't know how I missed this in my life. There's so many things you talked about, divorces, and my ex-wife's one of my closest friends. In Norway, my parents are Norwegian, so I don't know how I missed this. This is really cool. Thanks for having me. Not near as many people as I was told was going to be here. Ben, I'm kidding. So my life right now is consumed with addressing people's issues with pain, whether it's DOMS from working out or post-surgery, post-injections, plantar fasciitis, a lot of those things. So I'm going to move along here. How many of you had so much pain you could barely stand it? Honestly, how many of you guys? And how many are suffering now? You can't just ask. So I'll preempt this by saying this is not surgical. Pain's a motivator, right? I mean, if you think of, I know that's not novel to any of us in here, but pain's a motivator. My story with pain started in 2007. I was driving to my last exam at chiropractic school. I rushed, my motorcycle wasn't registered, and I realized I was late and I was in a hurry, so I jumped on my bike. And I decided that day to wear my Kevlar gloves and my jacket, which I normally don't. I was splitting traffic at the 110 and the 10 freeway. Dude realizes that he's not going the right direction, cuts me off, and I'm going about 55 miles an hour, and I slam into the side of this car. I wake up face down, helmet's cracked, I'm sitting in the middle of the 10 freeway, and I stand up like, what the fuck just happened? And where is this guy that cut me off? So I pick my bike up, push it off to the side, I walk over to pull this guy out of his car to take his head off, and he opens the door, and one of his legs is this much shorter than the other, and he has one of those big sort of four-hoof shoes on, and I'm like, can't beat this guy up. That would be terrible. And that from then on, my life changed, and I didn't realize it would. I didn't have a car, I didn't have a ride home, I didn't have health insurance. Policeman shows up, ambulance shows up, I'm like denying all the services. And my arm, I'd split my arm open on this guy's window, and it's bleeding into my glove. I didn't take my glove off yet. So I'm standing there bleeding and I knew I did something to my knee. I had a concussion. but I had to get to school to take this test. So I take a taxi to school, and I only had $20. This is awesome. I only had $20, and I told the taxi I only got $20. This happened on the 110 and the 10 freeway. I talked the tow truck driver into giving me a ride, because he was going that direction anyway. My school is on Vermont and the 101. Everyone familiar with what I'm talking about? Yeah. So we get in the car, and he's talking to me, and he calls his radio, and he says, hey, I have this guy, I'm gonna drop him off. And they tell him that's illegal, get him out of your car right now. So he gets off Hill, dumps me off on Hill on 9th. I'm from Utah. I've never been downtown. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I'm thinking, I gotta get to school. I literally didn't have any money in my bank account. I think I had like $80 or something. Cash out $20, I'm in this taxi, he drives me to Vermont. We get on the overpass, on the off-ramp, and I'm looking at the thing, and it's $19.90, $19.99, $20. And I'm like, fuck. Dude, and he turns around, he goes, that's all you have? And I said, yeah, and he goes, get out. I'm like, what? It's just right there. Like, no, get out. So I had to get out, jump a fence, jump a wall, go into my school, walked into my class, I was 5 minutes late. The guy says, my teacher is an asshole, still to this day. And I'm not that kind of guy, but he is. And I said, hey, I can't take this, can I take the test? He said, no, you can come back and take the later one. Great, because I gotta go in stitches. So I buzzed over to a buddy of mine, another referral buddy, gave me a guy's name on Robertson and Wilshire in Beverly Hills. So I asked a buddy of mine, take me over there, drops me off, I go in, he's got patients. And I'm like, looking at my clock, I gotta go, I look at my clock, my arm's bleeding, and I'm debating, can I do this? Should I super glue this? Fuck, okay, I'll just get stitches. He gets about 6 into it, and I'm like, dude, you gotta hurry, I gotta go. How many more do you have? And he said, probably 6 or 7. I'm like, do 3. I gotta get out of here. So he stitches up 3. Long story short, I go back, take the test. There's much more to that, but the point is, because he didn't do it right, it ended up being a keloid in my arm. And that looked ugly for a long time. A plastic surgeon buddy of mine, I was asking him one day, I'm like, how much is it to fix this? And he said, it's all about $5 grand. I'm like, I don't have $5. So I was pretty good in cadaver lab. Ben told me to say this story because it kind of sets this stage for what I did. I was pretty good in cadaver lab. It was one of my favorite classes, and I had a scalpel. So I was sitting in my house one night in Venice Beach, and I'm looking at my arm, and I'm thinking, I can cut that out of there. So I took a couple shots of Grey Goose, stuck a super glue little nozzle in my mouth, cut the keloid out, made sure I wasn't drawing blood, pinched the skin together, and dropped the super glue on that area. Put a patch on it, and look at my arm. I did pretty good. So anyway, that's kind of how I am. That's kind of how I think. Gives you a little, yeah, that's how I roll, exactly. So I wanted to touch on those things. This is an example of my MRI. I was trying to get my MRI 2 days ago. I still have the disc, but I didn't, and this is a really good example of it. And a lot of you maybe understand what this is, but 60 millimeters of mercury, which is the weight of a dime, can shut a nerve down up to 60%. So it's 10 millimeters of mercury, which is the weight of a dime, can shut a nerve down up to 60%. And there's a ton of pain that follows with that. So I had this 9 millimeter disc bulge. I had a ton of pain, numbness, tingling, atrophy in my whole right side. I couldn't feel my index, middle, and thumb fingers. And for a chiropractor, that's terrible. So I was in this state of, holy shit, what do I do now? Sacrificed and divorce and kids and all these different things. And I realized that the only thing that was available to me was this sort of stuff. And I wasn't going to do this sort of stuff. If you look at all of these things, this is not stopping. And it's still being prescribed. My dad on my way here just this morning said we just found out that my Aunt Lily, who's in Norway, actually is addicted to opioids and had to put her in a home. And that's just today. She's probably 65. What the hell? She didn't know, right? But luckily I did. So I started thinking in my head, what can I do for this pain? My brother, who's a chiropractor as well, had been in a water skiing accident 2 years before me. He had a similar injury, a 6mm bulge on his right side, and I remember him use something that was vibrating. There was this thing on the right, it's called a vibrocussor. He told me he would turn it on, put it underneath his arm, and just let it rest, and the vibration would turn his pain signals off. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, but it sounded good to me, and I was willing to do anything. Went to my office. My partner at the time had one at an office in Wilshire and Fairfax. Went to the office, grabbed it. You see how long that cord is, like the phones were in the 80s? I mean, I literally would set that little base down in my office, put that under my arm, and walk around and treat patients. Just bzzz the whole day. Problem is, actually, let me finish with this. This thing on the left is what my grandpa used on our farm. He would slide that in his arm and rub himself, like on his body. Set it on the ground, put his feet on it at the end of the day. Genius. At the time, I'm like 9 or 10, walk around the house like, what the fuck's grandpa doing? Like, that's weird. But he was so smart, it took the pain away. It made his body feel better. And as a farmer, if any one of you are familiar with that, it's relentless. It doesn't stop. He doesn't get days off. Cows don't milk themselves. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stories. In my life, when I see that, I remember cool things. Back to my story, so I started using that thing. But it vibrated. And the vibration underneath my armpit was irritating my skin. So now I couldn't get that relief as much as I wanted to because my armpit was getting raw. It's hurting. So, being this guy that takes out my own keloids, I was thinking, I gotta have some other way to do this. I can't handle this pain anymore. Have any of you had nerve pain? Like real nerve pain? It doesn't have a time clock. It doesn't know like it's not time to go to sleep or eat or have sex or anything. So I was kind of in this state of need, and necessity is the mother of invention. And I had this need that just kept coming to me. So I created something. Literally, I think I've told a couple of you, this is kind of weird for me because I never have shown these pictures. Never. Ben told me that he would buy me dinner if I did, so Ben. I'm just going to walk through this really quick. The first one up here on the left is the one I made. I literally went to my shed, pulled my tools out, and I was figuring, I got to have something that can punch me. And it had a variable speed. If you can see the dial on the right, up at the top, I would adjust the dial and find this speed that felt good. And I started using it. And the minute that I found the right spot, it was up underneath my subscap, and I'd hit that spot, and I was like, I could go to sleep. I'd use it for a few minutes, and I'd set it down, and I'd breathe. My blood flow would come back, my nervous system would regulate, and I'd be able to manage my own thoughts. I used that for a while. I used it on a patient. So I basically, in 2008, started using this in January of 2008. In June of 2008, I got myself better. I was back. I could walk on the beach. No one could see that I had atrophy. I was going to the gym, went to Gold's at the time. I was working out. I was back to pretty much healthy. Still had some residual scar tissue and stuff, but I was doing good. And I was using the thing on myself for rehab. All shit that I learned, not knowing I was learning this. Just used it, because I didn't have any money. I was living in Culver City in this one-bedroom apartment. Excuse me, and I put it away. I kind of was done with it. A patient of mine comes in office in September of 2000. How much time do I have, by the way? Okay. Patient of mine comes into my office on Fairfax and Wilshire. Similar injury. Dude was a bus driver, about my age. I see his paperwork, and the story starts to translate to me. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is me. Same deal with his insurance, shitty insurance, 12 visits. No way I'm gonna get this guy better in a traditional way. No way. And I knew he wasn't gonna keep coming if he ran out of money. So I brought him in, him and his wife, and I said, listen, I need you guys to meet me back here tomorrow. You're gonna think I'm crazy, but I think I have something that you guys should try. He did, it worked. Long story short, it was amazing. I felt like, holy crap, I gotta do something about this. So I started searching. There wasn't anything even remotely like this on the market. So I called Kawasaki, and I bought 250 of the next ones. Borrowed money from my brother. Called my brother chiropractor and said, I need $2,500. Can I borrow it from you? I'll pay you back. Amazing, he did. And I retrofitted those, and if you look at the little attachment on the end, that's a fence post cap flipped upside down with a rivet in it that I welded a bolt into the action on the gun and just screwed that thing on and stuck a little kitty toy on the end of it. Ta-da! And it worked. 25 bucks total cost. I was selling for 300 bucks as fast as I could make them. And I was like, that thing's so fucking loud. The power cord was shorter than those stupid chargers you have on your phones where you can't walk anywhere. So I'm thinking, if that's successful, call a bunch of the guys that bought them. How much would you pay for one of these if I really made a badass one? $1,000. Whoa. Okay, well, I went to school. I started doing the math. I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing. Okay, I'm going to start making these. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to innovate. I'm going to make something different. So the next one was a version I made, and I'll go through these in a minute, but I just wanted you guys to kind of get a layout of this. I'll show this slide again in a second. We'll go through some years.